Alrighty, good afternoon everybody. Doing a review of an off-meta Stamina Arcanist build for update 44. Running dual wield daggers and a back bar bow on this gal. Race is Imperial. This gal is a tank main, so the race isn't the best in the West, but it gets the job done. So let's take a gander at what we're running here. For my daggers, I am running Pillar of Nirn on both. Front bar should be flame damage enchant with a Nirn honed trait. I've seen a little bit better done on charged. I'm just lazy and I haven't done it yet, but I still get pretty darn good results with Nirn honed. Offhand is poison damage with charged. Back bar, your Maelstrom perfected bow doesn't need to be perfected. It does a little bit better, but you know, it's not the end of the world if you have the unperfected. Infused with weapon damage enchant, the standard back bow setup. Your main source of the additional weapon and spell damage, as well as some pretty decent dots. Here's that one-piece slime craw. That is pretty standard these days. This is my only source of the light armor passives, focusing on penetration and weapon damage, or spell damage, or it's crit, I can't remember. But either way, this is my only source of such. Divines with Stamina. Divines with Stamina is standard across all armor for a Stamina tune, so we're going to see a theme there. Coral Riptide is my other set. Majority of it, if not all of it, are on body, with one other piece being a Pillar of Nirn. Doesn't really matter which of your one other pieces are Pillar of Nirn, just as long as you connect that 5-piece buff when you're on your front bar. Here we have the rest of the Coral Riptide. I'm running Perfected. Again, don't necessarily need it, but hey, it gives you that extra crit chance, so you can't go wrong with it. I run Unperfected on Xbox, and it does just dandy. All Divines, all Stamina, the normal stuff. Mage's Amulet, key for an Arcanist build, reduces that light and heavy attack damage by pretty much all of it, down to 1%. But it gives you extra damage done against monsters and minor force. Bloodthirsty with the either spell harm or physical harm, aka now the multi-effect enchantment. And of course my Pillar Rings, both bloodthirsty, both running a multi-effect enchantment. Doesn't really matter too much about how you lay out your enchantments, if they're either the spell harm or the physical harm. The only real difference it's going to give you is whether or not you have that 10 Magica recovery or Stamina recovery. With the update 44, with the Banner Grimoire, you might want to look into running the physical damage morph, or excuse me, the physical damage enchant, as that extra 30 Stamina recovery will go a long way, since you have now reduced recoveries. Let's see here. All attributes are in Stamina, of course. Pretty standard stuff. I am still running Lava Foot Soup. I have seen folks do the pure Stamina food. You are more than welcome to if you can sustain your Stamina without suffering. I find with running Coral Riptide, especially on a non-meta race, and running the Grimoire, I definitely need the help with the 451 Stamina recovery. I do just fine with it. It's really up to you whether or not you want to use Parse food like this or run the max Stam. And of course, your Mundus is the Thief. Standard DPS Mundus. Skills, pretty traditional, based from the last couple of updates. Your Flail skill changing more so from a Crux builder to now a Abyssal Ink debuffer, and occasional Crux generator depending on the situation. Deadly Cloak, or its morph, which I believe is called Quick Cloak. I find both morphs do pretty much equal damage. Deadly Cloak, you don't beam as much, but there's an increased damage to this skill, or Quick Cloak where you have more time to beam and more damage, but I find they even out. So I've seen them both ways, so go with your heart and what works best for you. Barb Trap, one hell of a dot, not to mention the fighter skill passive. No longer needed to proc Minor Force with the Mage Amulet on, so I like to swap this one out for a self-heal if absolutely necessary. Exhausting Fate Carver, your main spammable, aka the beam. Exhausting Fate Carver for parsing, the other morph Pragmatic Fate Carver for content. The shield with Pragmatic is nice. The extra damage done here is great for parsing. I pretty much swap out with the Shrine to Stendar every single time I go into content with an Arcanist. And last on this one, the Banner Grimoire, the new scribed skill under Update 44. I've seen Arcanists go a couple of different ways with this, but I'm using the focus for magic damage, the signature of class mastery, and of course the affix of major prophecy and savagery. For the magic damage, I've seen physical damage, I've seen AoE damage. Really, it's up to you and what the group composition looks like in a trial. I like magic damage because it increases the damage done to your Fate Carver, as well as your Fulminating Rune on the back bar. But ultimately, having Crux, the Crux creation goes without saying, is a necessity. Flawless Dawnbreaker, just for the Fighter's Guild passive here, we don't really use it. Back bar, Fulminating Rune, excellent dot, again takes increased damage from the banner. Scalding Rune, one hell of a dot. Inspired Scholarship passive Crux builder, as well as the occasional damage, not to mention your source of brutality and sorcery. Endless Hail on the back bar to proc that weapon damage enchant, and not to mention get a buffed damage piece from the Maelstrom's bow. If you want to go full meta, go with a Maelstrom's Perfected or Unperfected Inferno with a Blockade of Fire skill instead. You will see a damage increase if you do so. And of course, you need to have the banner on the back bar as well. If you do not, it will not proc. It will remove itself from your bar. So you need to have it on both. And of course, the Languid Eye, your Parse ultimate. Stationary, one hell of a damage dealer. It's insane. I normally swap to the other morph, the Tide King's Gaze, as it can follow enemies, as well as search for new ones in content only. I only use Languid Eye for parsing. In very still fights like Sunspire, I could see the benefit of keeping this one, but typically I just swap to the Tide King's Gaze. Champion points for Arcanist are pretty self-explanatory. Exploiter, pair your ultimate with Beam and you're going to see Exploiter really take off in content. Biting Aura, Thermitage, I'm sure I always mispronounce that, and Wrathful Strikes, of course. The green and red trees don't really matter too much, they're really just up to you. My alchemy potions, I'm just using a Crown Store elixir for weapon power pots. You could use tri potions if you really want to. You could eat, tri potion. Not a health potion, of course, but you just need something to give you extra stamina if you need it. Especially with running the banner, especially if you're running only the increased stamina food. You're going to find yourself running out of stamina because you really have to stay under that 33% of overall stam to get the best out of your buck for Core Riptide. So the rotation itself is pretty simple. It's pretty much traditional Arcanist, except it's a little bit easier now that you have the banner. You don't have to create Crux as much. Most guilds will allow you to get Crux before you parse, so we're going to do just that. We're going to roll dodge to get that coral rip down just about to 30%. That's the sweet spot that I like. I'm going to let it come back up a little bit, get some distance between me and that dummy. 31% is just as good. Re-up my scholarship. Deadly. Walk in, unblock, trap, hail, flail, back bar dots, ultimate, and beam. I'll likely have to flail once more just to get an extra crux since my dots don't need refreshing. And we are off to the races. Only take your Blessed Shard Synergy if you absolutely must. Same thing goes with potions. Is you really don't want to get yourself too much into a jam with running Coral Riptide. You get above that 33% and it can be a pretty slippery slope to getting back down. I kind of overdid myself with the potion, but I managed just fine. Do try to re-up your Scalding Rune and Barbed Trap within 2 seconds of the previous dot running out. It does take about 2 seconds of each for it to really start attacking your enemies. Always pair your ultimate with your beam. Never stop your beam to re-up your dots either. Never want to do that, even at Endless Hail. The Soldier of Apocrypha morph, or a passive, that allows you to gain ultimate whenever you consume Crux is great. My Xbox Tune doesn't have it, and I feel it in my chest every single time I go to Parse. This should wrap it up for me. Alright, so that one got me a nice hearty 105. I did get 108 on this build yesterday, but overall pretty good for an off-meta build, off-race build. In terms of sets, I'm still solid on Pillar. I've used Deadly, I've used Highland Sentinel. I find Pillar works best for me. In a content setting, Deadly is probably the best and most widely used. Otherwise, I still use Pillar of Nirn, and it does just fine. If you do choose to use Highland, you will have to swap that out, as stationary fights are pretty much inexistent for trials or dungeons. But, yeah, pretty easy stuff. See y'all next time.